So it is 2023, the music industry is still very much alive and Spotify is still very much paying absolute peanuts for music artists in streaming royalties. Now the reason I wanted to make this video today is because if you are a music maker, maybe you have released music on Spotify, maybe you haven't. Maybe you've heard from a friend of a friend that the most common and the best way to earn money as a music maker is through releasing your music onto major streaming platforms. Well, firstly, I do think that's a little bit of the stretch of the truth and the reality of earning from streaming. But more importantly, I actually want to discuss the purpose of Spotify for a certain type of music maker in 2023. Whether you're a music artist or a music producer, how can you best utilize Spotify in 2023? Going back to what I said at the start of this video, if you've been releasing music for a while on Spotify, you will know that it doesn't pay very well. Now, the question you might ask yourself and the reason you might click on this video is, can you actually make money from Spotify? In fact, a decent living income from Spotify? And if so, how do you do it? And what's the best way to do it? If not, what actually is the point in me having a Spotify account? Well, I'm hoping from this video, as someone who is a music producer and uses Spotify, not so much as an artist anymore, but as a music producer, I'm going to tell you the reason why I use Spotify and also discuss how important it should actually be in your brand structure as a music maker. So smash that subscribe button if you are new to the channel, and let's take a deep dive into this and discuss Spotify. Now, the first example I want to give is if you are someone who does not have a fan base and wants to try and make money on Spotify, how can you actually profit from using Spotify? Well, the first thing obviously you're going to have to do is drive traffic to your Spotify, because if you don't have a fan base, you're going to have to try and find an audience somewhere, because you can't just rely on Spotify algorithm, because the Spotify algorithm currently works all about the data that you send. So the more certain people who listen to your music, Spotify want to push your song out to people similar to that. So again, if you're someone who doesn't have a following and you want to make money from Spotify, then this would be the best way to do it, as I'm about to show you. So if you have YouTube tutorial videos on how to grow a Spotify using marketing, and more specifically paid marketing, you probably would have heard of Facebook ads, or you might use Facebook ads now. Now that, in my opinion, is the best way to drive new listeners to your Spotify if you're putting some financial budget behind it. It is the most effective way, mainly down to the sort of traffic you could do and the demographic targeting you do to really home in on an audience which would like your music. But if you was to do a campaign right now with zero following, how much would you make and would you actually profit from doing this? Well, I've made this really nice little graph here to show you the cost of Facebook ads and the return that you would get. Okay, so the first thing we have to keep in mind is Spotify pays $0.003 for every 1,000 streams. That could also go up to 0.005 if you are getting streamings from one of the tier 1 countries, as I call it, like your Canada's, United States, UK, where they pay more per stream. So let's hypothetically say that we're at the lower end of the spectrum, and we're not only going to be paying more for a conversion in our Facebook ads, but we're also going to be getting streams from the lower tier countries that don't pay a lot per 1,000 streams. That could be Asian countries like India, Nepal, Pakistan, Malaysia. Also over to countries like Brazil, Mexico, Chile are on the lower spectrum. And then for our Facebook ad campaign, let's say that we're getting a typical conversion. Now, what a conversion is the cost per click. So someone who actually clicks on your ad goes through and streams the songs. Facebook can monitor that with something called a pixel. So what you're seeing on this graph here is 500 clicks at 30 cents. So 30 cents is a pretty average, like okay conversion cost to get per click. If you see here, firstly, if we look at Spotify, so for 1,000 streams, you would earn $3. For 10,000 streams, you would earn $30. 100,000 streams, 300, and 1 million streams, you'd earn $3,000. Now, that really doesn't feel like a lot, does it? But it gets more interesting when we look at the cost of Facebook ad spend to get that. So for this hypothetical, what we're going to do is, I'm saying for 500 clicks, we would get 1,000 streams. Now, the reason why 500 clicks, because it would be pretty realistic to say that on average, every person that listens to our song, say 500 people listen to the song, on average, I reckon the song would be streamed 2 times for every listener. So with that in mind, that's why I've gone for 500, because realistically, I think we will get double the amount of streams as we get to listeners over time, because people add playlists. Some people listen to it 4 to 8 times, some people only listen to it once. So I think it'll even out. So again, this is super realistic. So for 500 clicks at 30 cents per conversion, we would have to pay $150 to get 1,000 streams, which is crazy. So we've made a loss of $147. Now, as you can see visually going down here for $1,500 and going down the list here, you'll see for 5,000 clicks at 30 cents, we will get $1,500, which is a loss of £1,470. So you get the idea. Basically, what we can assume here is we're going to be making a loss from a very realistic Facebook campaign. Now, obviously, this doesn't factor certain things in, like Spotify's algorithmic push. If you do have any people at all that go across to listen to it, that will be added on top of this. But you can already see the margins are very far from how much it would actually take to even break even if you were promoting your Spotify music. So what I want to do now is show you a more generous graph of if everything went your way. So not only do you get the Facebook ad spend at a very good cost per conversion, let's say of 20 cents, but also you get a Spotify algorithmic push, so you get 50% on top. So let's just say that you get 50% more streams from Spotify, pushing it out to Discover Weekly, Release Radar, Radio, and their other algorithmic playlists. So let's see how much we'd actually make back on a campaign like that. So you'll see from this graph here, Spotify earnings get a little bit better because we are getting $7.50 earnings because we've got that 500 extra streams. So now 1,500 streams for $7.50, but that is still with an ad spend this time not of $150 but of $100. So we have still made a loss of $92.50. And so we go right up to the top. So 1 million streams, add an extra 500,000 streams we would get from Spotify's algorithmic playlist. We would earn $75,000.
What's up, it's Joe editing the video, just interrupted myself and I've been an idiot. It is not 75,000, I meant 7,500. I made a mistake with the graph and I've just read it out. So yeah, not $75,000, 7,500.
But we would have spent $100,000 on promo. So you can see from these graphs here that I have shown you that it is very hard to profit from a Spotify campaign if you don't have the fan base to begin with. Now, one thing that we could argue is if you do Facebook ads over time, let's say you put £100 into every single you release, when you release a new song, all of a sudden you will have fans who you can hopefully retain for next singles. So over time, you'll get some sort of waterfall effect where as you release more music, you will retain some of the followers that you got from previous campaigns, so you would have to equate less Facebook ad spend to get more streams. So it can be sort of not profitable, but in the long term you could possibly break even in time if you target the right people, they listen to your song, you like it, they follow you on Spotify, maybe even following your socials, and keep listening to your music. But again, that's something that takes time and not all of us have the big budget. So that leads to the question then, so what is actually the point of Spotify? If we're not actually making any money from it, why do we do it? Now, Spotify don't really look at it as something that you should actually be earning money from, because what Spotify is a platform to share your music on at the end of the day. It is a social media platform, you can almost call it. Yes, it is monetizable, but not very profitable. So what should we actually be focusing on as a music maker? So I'm going to talk about it as if you're a music artist and a music producer. So music artists nowadays, the reality is the money is not so much in Spotify and actually selling your music from streaming services. You can still sell your music obviously as a CD, and that actually is a hell of a load more profitable, because if you think about it, if you sell a CD for $10, you would have to get about 2,000 streams in order to make that sort of money. And even more so, there is more money in things like merch sales, touring, and just doing gigs. You could do a gig in your local pub for £150, £200 in one night. Do you know how many streams you would have to get? It would be close to 40,000 streams. And we've all seen how much you'd have to spend on Facebook ads to get that. So try and not think of Spotify as the money earner, because it's really not. It pays really badly. And there's actually another way if you're a music producer now, which it can benefit you. So I am a music producer foremost more than an artist, but I am currently at the recording of this video spending 250 quid on a Facebook ad campaign to promote a new song I've released called Take Me Home. Now, I am not putting that money into Facebook ad to earn money from it, because I'm growing this song for a very different reason. As a music producer, especially when I was in the early stages of my career, I didn't have a huge portfolio of work. It's like that whole thing, when you leave university, you have the qualification to do something. Let's say you have the qualification to be a lawyer, but you don't have the experience. So all of a sudden you're applying for jobs as a lawyer, but the problem is no one's taking you on because they're saying, okay, where's your experience? Well, I don't have any experience because I've been at university. And it is the same thing for that. If you're a music producer, but you just started, you may have the know-how, but you don't have the experience to lure people into working with you. So Spotify is a very good way to release your own original music, but also showcase what you can do as a music producer. And one of the things which can really help sell people is if they see that you're a very valid and a very relevant producer. So if you have a song on Spotify, it doesn't have to have a million streams, doesn't have to have 100,000 streams, but if you can get some decent numbers on the songs you release, people who want to work with you think, okay, cool, this guy releases music and people listen to it. And I've also listened to it, the song sounds great. I want to work with this guy because I really like his vibe and there seems to be a buzz about him. So that is why I am trying to drive traffic to my Spotify for the relevancy and almost like a little ego boost as well to make you look relevant. But to be honest, you don't even have to do that because streams at the end of the day are not the be all and end all. I always say this on my beat selling stuff. Views don't matter for beats either. That is a completely different topic, but it's the same premise. It's the same premise for the likes on an Instagram photo. None of that's really relevant because at the end of the day, it's very easy for someone to like something. It's very easy for someone to stream a song once. It doesn't mean they're emotionally invested in it afterwards and want to hear more. Numbers really nowadays do lie and don't tell the whole story. For example, someone can have a post go viral on TikTok, get 1 million views and have 100 followers after it, and they post the next one thinking it's gonna happen again. It doesn't. You get 50 views. It's because people only cared about that one bit of content, and it all ties into views are relevant, and streams are not the be all and end all, because as I've said in this video, I made the point, you're not going to profit from Spotify unless you get very lucky or you have a massive following. And on top of that, we haven't even factored in that you have to pay to keep your music up on Spotify as well. But yeah, what do you think? What do you use Spotify for? And let me know in the comments below your experience with Spotify and what your thoughts are as well. Very interested to get a little community here talking about the benefits of Spotify going forward in 2023, and let me know your thoughts on this video as well. And if you did enjoy this video, hit that like button, really helps this in the algorithm, and also smash that subscribe button if you're not already. But yeah guys, I hope you enjoyed this little talk about Spotify. Keep making music and I will see you in the next video.